Welcome to the Receiver's Introduction video of our 360 series. Today, we're going to look at some of the common vocabulary and concepts we need to start understanding the position of receiver. First up, we're going to look at offensive positions. Right now, we're lined up in the position of the right slot or slot back. This is one of the 4 receiver positions we have in our usual offense. If you look further to your right, you'll see the right wideout or wide receiver. Look all the way across the field to your left. There you'll see the left slot and the left wideout. We also label our receivers with letters to communicate plays faster. Those labels from left to right are X, W, Y, and Z. In between the 4 receiver positions are the rest of the offense. The big bodies up front are the offensive line. Behind them is what we call the offensive backfield, where we can find the 2 running backs, the fullback and the tailback, as well as the quarterback. Now we find ourselves in the position of the X, or the left wide receiver. Directly in front of us, highlighted now, is the line of scrimmage, the line that separates the offense from the defense. As a wide receiver, we have to be on this line of scrimmage just like the offensive line. Slot backs can get a running start at the line of scrimmage, but we have to start on it, and we can't move forward until the ball is snapped. Next, we're going to start talking about defensive positions. Directly across from you is a defensive back. This position group, the DBs, are the ones who are responsible for covering us and trying to stop us from catching the ball. They're also the players that we are usually responsible for blocking on running plays when we're not trying to catch the ball. Specifically, this player in front of us is called the corner or cornerback. These corners are the ones usually responsible for covering the wideouts. Next, we're back in the position of a slot back, but in this case, we're the W or the left slot. Directly in front of you is what we call the halfback. This position is usually responsible for covering the slot backs. The last defensive back is the one furthest away from the offense, called the free safety or just safety. This DB usually doesn't have a specific player to cover, hence the free part of the name, and instead helps cover where necessary. In front of the safety are the linebackers. While these players are usually more responsible for stopping the run, they can help in coverage too, specifically when the defense runs zone coverage, but we'll go more into that later. In front of the linebackers and directly across from the offensive line is the defensive line. As receivers, we're not overly concerned about them. The next concept we're going to talk about is the idea of formations, or the way that the offense lines up. Right now, we're aligned in what we call 22 offset I. The offset I refers to the offensive backfield. As receivers, we're more focused on that number in front, the 22. That refers to where the receivers will line up. 22 tells us there will be 2 receivers on each side of the ball. Now, we're still a slot on the left side, but we're in the position of Y instead. If you look to your left, you can see the other slot back, the W, as well as the left wideout, the X. Because we have 3 receivers on the left side, we are in what we call 31. That means that we've got 3 receivers on the left and 1 receiver on the right. If both slot backs were on the right instead, we would then be in 13. Anytime we line 3 receivers up on one side, we call that trips, short for triple. We can also refer to the single receiver on the other side as the ISO, or isolated receiver. When we're in our usual formation of 22 with 2 receivers on each side, we can refer to both sides as twins. Next, we're in the perspective of the right wideout, the Z. Because we're still in 31, we can also refer to this position as the ISO receiver. Sometimes, because we don't have a slot back with us, we'll line up closer to the quarterback. While we're not allowed to move forward before the snap like the slot back can, we can move laterally or sideways along the line of scrimmage. This is one kind of motion, which is the term we use to describe receivers moving before the ball is snapped. That motion of moving laterally along the line of scrimmage is called waggle. What we'll see in this upcoming video is this ISO receiver start moving towards the ball and then going forward when the ball is snapped. We have to be very careful to stay on the line of scrimmage as we waggle. Now that we're back in the position of a slot, we'll talk about our next most common motion of approach. As mentioned before, the slot backs can attack the line of scrimmage before the ball is snapped. We just have to be at least 1 yard away from the line of scrimmage before the ball is snapped, but we can hit it at full speed as long as we have the right timing. The next motion we'll look at is that of a trips motion. That is where we'll start in a 22 formation, but then we'll run to the other side of the formation and create trips, turning it from 22 to 31. This kind of motion, because it's so common, is just called motion, meaning a slot back is going from one side to the other behind the offensive backfield. The next and final motion we'll talk about is that of a jet motion. Jet means that we're still going to move from one side of the field to the other, but instead of going behind the quarterback and going there before the snap, we're going to go in front of the quarterback and be there before the ball is snapped. This kind of motion will be used in any plays where the quarterback might hand the ball off to the slot rather than throwing it. Up next, we're going to move away from motion and focus on one of the most important jobs we have at receiver: blocking. Anytime we try to run the ball, the receivers will have a responsibility to try and stop or at least delay the defensive backs from helping to make a tackle. Sometimes we do this by running routes and pretending we're going to catch a pass, but more often than not, we'll do this by blocking. That takes us to our first kind of block, and the most common, called stock blocking. This is where we're responsible for blocking the defensive back directly in front of us. For slot backs, that's the half. One other kind of block is called a crack block. A crack block refers to when we go block someone not directly in front of us or really expecting it, usually a defensive end or an outside linebacker. Our job is to make sure we stay on the outside of that defensive player and make them work hard to get around us or keep them pinned inside. That's going to take us to the end of our introduction video for receiver. Our next video is going to be focused on common basic routes. See you there.